Hello? How did you get this number? Don't you know he's listening? The 13. He's here.
You have entered the 13, a place where real stories about music, touring, and the beyond are told. Music does something to us. We all experience it in our own way. It can affect our senses, transport us through time, and release emotions. On this podcast, we will talk with people about the power of music and the beyond. What does the beyond mean? Let's find out together. Turn on your metronomes because this time is about to be tracked. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the 13. I'm your host, Ryan 13, and today I'm joined by one of my best friends, Brandon Thomas from Expanding Reality. Brandon, welcome. How are you doing?
What it do? I'm doing awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me. I love you. Love your show. This is badass. I'm so pumped to be here. Thank you.
Dude, thanks for coming on. You're the one who inspired me to do this, so you have to come on. And to probably you're either capping the first season or you're starting the second one. I haven't figured it out yet, but we'll figure that out later.
I'm cool with either way, or just split it in half and have this be the first half of the last episode of that season, and then the first half of the first episode of the first season. I don't know. However you want to work it, dude. I trust you.
I like it. So for the audience, and I also kind of stole this from you, so thank you. For the audience who may or may know you or may not know you, tell them a little bit about yourself.
That's all good. I have jacked this from other people as well. So we just kind of keep passing this around, and I love this. So I'll give the actual insight to the audience here on why we have the guests introduce themselves. And one of my main reasons for it was because bios are outdated. A lot of people send me bios that are, I'm like, hey, how's your wife? And they're like, actually, I got divorced 3 years ago. I'm like, well, it says I love my loving wife on your fucking bio here, dude. So what do you want me to do? You know what I mean? So it's a better way for folks to introduce themselves because then you get them, and in their own words, it's better than something you could read off a piece of paper, no matter how accurate it is, right? So I'm all about this action. To answer your question directly, then, I'm Brandon Thomas. I host a show called Expanding Reality, and you can find me at expandingrealitypodcast.com. I know you're an expansive insider. You've been over there on the shows. The bonus shit is amazing. We've got just tons of cool shit going on over there, and it's been a blast. So that answer the question sufficiently?
Sufficiently, I think so. One thing I want to add is you're also a musician.
Oh, yeah. I forgot.
And how, oh, yeah, I forgot. There's a guitar in the background. I know that guitar. Like we met at a party a long time ago, and we had the same freaking keychain from a small store in like Central West Texas, or well, maybe not West, but Central-ish Texas. And it was just a small world. We met however many years ago, 20 years ago, and then you were in a band. I wanted to be in a band, and it all came together. We've been friends ever since. Yeah. And you actually had the chance to go. You've toured a lot, but you toured in China.
Mm-hmm.
And like the stories you've told me about that place seems awesome because I've never been that far east. And so tell me a little bit about your journeys over there.
Yeah, it was a crazy opportunity. So I knew a guy named Jafar, and he went over there with a band. And then when he came back, it was just somebody I met working at a Guitar Center, just some random, dude or whatever. Really nice guy and awesome fucking bass player. And so he went over there with his band. And when he came back, he was like, hey, by the way, I recommended you to the promoter over there. And then I got an email like a week and a half, 2 weeks later, and ended up going to China to freaking play my music, which was insane. Like the whole thing was crazy. I didn't go to a, country that spoke our language, but just with a slight accent or anything like that. I went all the way to freaking China, dude. We went all the way over there, other side of the world or other side of the disc, however you want to put it. We can go there if you'd like, but it was wild. It was so wild. The whole experience. I mean, it was actually one of my biggest turning points in my life was the very first night that I was in China. It was absolutely insane. So I'll just share that story with you. That was one of the biggest eye-opening experiences I've ever had. So I mean, like I said, promoter dude just emailed me. I knew a guy that had gone over there already and made it back safe. So I knew he probably wasn't going to take all of my organs, right?
Right.
And it
not
was
all
still
of them.
Not all of them. He'd leave me a couple. And so it was one of these things where like I kind of had the confidence with that, but really it was just me and this dude emailing back and forth and translating, his emails and stuff like that. Ended up with a tour date, tours. I think it was like 18 different cities in 28 days, something like that. So it was a full month. And it was unbelievable. Started in Beijing, and then, but that night in Beijing, so first of all, I mean, I got my shots to go over there because you have to get like meningitis and all this dumb shit.
Right, right.
And so I got those things on the way to the airport to fly out. And the flight was like 30 something hours. I had two connections and like one
God.
layover, and it was insane. So allegedly you go over the North Pole, which was really cool. And so I got like on my last flight over there from, I want to say Calgary or Toronto over to Beijing, it was like 12-hour flight, and right in the middle of it I just feel the effects of the vaccines that I took, and I was just
Oh
sick as a
no.
dog. I'm throwing up. I'm just like, I hate this. And then I land, and when I landed, pretty cool. My guide, who was supposed to speak perfect English, and we, was supposed to just get me around safely, which he did, but the English part was not. I guess the audition for that was, do you know this Bob Marley song? Because he knew
Yeah.
every word to every Bob Marley song ever, and that
Wow.
was another connection point we had, which was really cool. And so it was a lot of just pointing and stuff like that, which was crazy. It actually added to the experience. So when
Sure.
he picked me up from the airport, he didn't write English, just the same as I don't write Mandarin. So he had his friend finger paint on one of those boards like that they do for the movies. They have the stripes on them, and they're like, and action.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, it was one of those. It's black, and I still have it. And he fingerprint painted Brandon Thomas on it, and he was just
Oh,
standing out
cool.
there with it. Like, that's my sign that he was picking me up with, right?
Yeah.
And so he picks me up with this thing. I was like, I'm Brandon Thomas, and they call you Thomas over there. So whatever your
Sure.
name is, they call you your last name.
Okay.
So I'm just getting off this flight. I'm landing. I'm smelling the Asian air here, and I'm just like, wow, this is a totally different experience. And then I'm still my stomach's still kind of hurt or whatever from all the vomiting
Yeah.
on the plane, and kind of just feeling like shit from the vaccines. So we go outside to hail a taxi to go to our next destination there. And when we get in the taxi, actually, while we're waiting for the taxi, he opens up a cigarette pack, and there's a little joint in there. And he looked at me like I was going to hit him. He was like, "Are you cool with this?" Kind of thing. And he just kind of opened it and looked. And I was like, "Oh my God." I gave him a huge fucking hug. We get in the taxi. He's sitting in the front. I'm sitting in the back. And he lights this joint up in the taxi, and I'm just like, "Oh God, I'm fucking gonna, go to jail right now." And
Sure.
then he hits it and then passes it back to me. And I go, "But what about the driver?" And he goes, "He don't know." I was like, "What do you mean he doesn't know?" He goes, "He don't know." So come to find out, it is illegal over there, but a lot of people don't know what the fuck you're smoking. Like, they don't know what weed is. It was the
Oh,
impression that I got from that. It,
really
it was
interesting.
crazy. Yeah, and a lot
I
of them
don't,
are spliffs, so they're
I
rolled with
don't,
tobacco.
right. Yeah, that's how it was in Europe. Like all the Germans that worked for us, Bobo, what's up, Bobo? All the
Oh,
Germans that worked with us on the King's X European tours, they everything, yeah, it was a spliff. It had tobacco in it, which I didn't mind because I smoked cigarettes at the time, but like I don't think I could do it now. Like I just don't think just I well, first of all, I can't even smoke weed now because of my current job, but that's a different story. But like if I were to partake, I just don't think there'd be tobacco in
yeah,
it.
you go for the pure stuff. I mean, I'd smoke
Yeah.
now, but no, there's no tobacco in my shit. It was just so wild though that he was just like, he don't know. And so I'm just sitting here, my heart's pounding because I'm like, great, he's just gonna drive us to a police station. I'm just gonna get arrested in China and goodbye.
Yeah.
So we get, to where we're going, which I had a gig 5 hours after I landed from this 37-hour
Oh my
flight, from just
gosh.
being sick, and then I had a gig booked 5 hours after I landed. So we went to his friend's house and hung out for a little bit, who lived in Beijing. Now, Wufang was not from Beijing at all. It's in the far north. He's in the far south, and Wuhan is where he was from. And that's where he took like an insane amount of time to get up to Beijing to come meet me, because they just take him by train. They didn't fly there.
Wuhan. We'll get
Yeah,
into that. We'll get into
we
that
can.
later.
Absolutely, we can. And so, so we go to this dude's house, we're hanging out or whatever. And then, I mean, I was at a gig, I met the opening band, they played, and then I was on stage. Now,
Nice.
where the, I guess, interesting part of the story comes in at is, all of that, but really, whenever I went over there, I borrowed a ton of money to get CDs produced and then shipped over there. So I shipped like 4 cases of CDs over there,
Wow.
and to sell, as merch along the route. I was like, hell yeah, I got stuff to sell. That, as well as, just the plane tickets getting there and back, as well as just money, to have over there while you were traveling around and shit. And so I was really looking forward. I borrowed some to get over there, so I was really looking forward to paying all that back. And when I get there, first gig, first night, there was the opening band and like 3 people there to hear me. And so
Yeah.
actually we made no money whatsoever. And I was
Right.
just like, okay. And I mean, we went out and had dinner at that night right after the show and all this stuff. And I'm like having a great time and everything was amazing. But I'm sitting here like going, okay, how am I gonna And then I was like, okay, where are my CDs? And they're like, oh, your CDs are in customs. Like, you'll never get them out. I was
Oh
like, okay,
shit.
cool. So number one, we're getting paid fuck all because of the promotions or whatever in that city. This was where my mind was right when I got there.
Yeah.
Getting paid fuck all. How am I going to repay the people that I got borrowed money to come over here, as well as no CDs? So now I don't have merch to sell, right? So now it's just me depending on ticket sales to make any money. And then
Yeah.
also, I'd only brought like, I don't know, $50 that we turned into UN, which is great. It was like a lot of money. $1 of ours is $7.34 of theirs at the time. And it was
Yeah.
like in 2008. And so I was like, okay, well, all right. And, so then after all that, we go have dinner, we go get, shit house drunk or whatever. And then we needed to go back to his friend's house to stay for the night before we got on a train to go to our next city tomorrow, because we couldn't afford a hotel because the money I was supposed to make at the show was going to pay for a hotel. So it was this experience right when I showed up, still kind of buggy from the vaccines and stuff like this. I'm 25 years old. I've never done anything like this. And I was scared out of my mind, absolutely scared out of my mind. And so that night, while they're crammed like 3 or 4 to this little twin bed, I'm sleeping on a tile floor, was supposed to be sleeping on a tile floor with a cat with ringworm, freezing cold in northern China. And I was just like, okay. So I go in the bathroom. I'm sick as a dog. I'm puking. And their toilets, by the way, are just holes in the ground. So their toilet
Correct. Yeah.
drain is their shower.
Yep.
And so I'm just puking in this fucking thing. I'm looking in the mirror at myself, just tears streaming down my face. I'm shaking. I'm crying.
Oh
And I just said,
man.
dude, go home. I was like, go the fuck home. Get on a plane and fly your ass out. You're already in Beijing. You don't need to finish the tour. Obviously, this is all bullshit. Was where
Yeah.
my mind was.
Sure.
And I was like, fuck all this. I knew no one spoke English. Like all of that stuff. Right. And so just there was something in me though, in that moment, in that shaky, cryy, the most scared little boy you've ever seen. And it just said one more city. Just go to the next city. Like it's 4 hours away by train. If it sucks ass, then you can turn around and come back. I don't know
Nice.
what that voice was, but I'm eternally grateful for it because the next city was incredible. And the city after that, incredible. Then I started, getting into all my booked out shows and people just like, hey, come stay with us, and plenty of money everywhere. We ran out of money one time in the middle of it. And I had a gig in the next city. We needed to get on a train, but we didn't have any money for the train. So I actually opened my guitar case and started playing in the train station and made
Yeah.
enough money just barely for us to get 2 tickets and then something to eat on the train. And so that
Dude,
got
that's
us to our
awesome.
next city, which then paid for, the rest because I was able to get to the gig. It was crazy. Being like that tight in China was insane. And with a guy that did not speak English. So it was wild.
I mean, dude, I can only imagine. The only experience I have with having to work with people who don't speak English is, just in my work life. And sometimes when you have to manage or whatever and nobody can communicate, the pointing thing and the miming shit, like like it works and it works great. We don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
stop. No.
Yeah.
Like stop now.
Right now.
Like,
Yeah.
and it
Right now.
works. It worked. And they do the same thing to me. Fuck
But it was
you.
incredible. I had some of the best conversations with people that we didn't speak a lick of the same
Yeah,
language. And you
absolutely.
have the most incredible connection. And I learned a lot of Mandarin when I was over there, which is another fun fact. There's no such language as Chinese. Chinese is a people, just like you. You
Right.
don't speak American, you speak English, you are American, right?
Correct.
And
Yeah,
so
they
there
speak
they
it.
have two main dialects. The northern one and the most predominant because it's their governmental tongue would be Mandarin, and then they have Cantonese in the south.
Yep.
And they have like 46 different dialects in the mountains and stuff like that. So one of the things is my guide, I guess, only spoke Mandarin and did not
Okay.
understand much Cantonese at all. So when we would get in a taxi in the south, where Cantonese is predominantly spoken, or especially in the towns where it was, we would get in. The driver would say something to him in what sounded like Mandarin to me. He would say something back in Mandarin, and then they would both look at me, and I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I don't know what he's saying." I was like, "What are you talking about, dude?"
Why
He
would
goes,
I know what he's saying?
I don't understand him. I was like, well, I don't fucking understand either one of you, man. We need to get to the show. Like, what are you talking about? But it was these moments, and they were wonderful.
Go.
Yeah, I know. Jizzo is forward, which is
Okay.
hilarious.
Yes,
Jizzo.
that is a jizzo.
Yeah, in
I
Mandarin,
like
Jizzo is forward.
dude, it's forward in American.
Yeah, it's a verb either way. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it. And so yeah, but China was nuts, man. I mean, met the Chinese mafia. I mean, all kinds of crazy shit. Had a threesome with 2 Italian chicks, and I mean, it
Damn.
was badass. Like it was one of the coolest, experiences I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, that's super cool. I remember when you came back, how stoked you were about it, because you were gone for what felt like forever, and then
Yeah.
when you showed back up, you had all these amazing stories. And like I had heard the original story about it, like kind of sucking at first or whatever. But you played. Maybe I just again, like you said, 2008. So maybe I just remember it different. But like I just remember you playing it off. You're like, no, dude, it was amazing. Like here,
Yeah.
take this stuff, and you gave me these things that you would like
Oh, Bin Lan, I think it was. Is
something
this little
like that.
seed?
Yeah, it was a
It's like
seed.
a tobacco seed. Yeah, it's like a big ass seed. It looks kind of like a nectarine seed or something.
Yeah,
And then there's a
and
pit in the middle of it, and you eat
yeah.
that. Yeah. Or you
You
just suck on
suck
it and
on it
spit it
for a
out.
while,
Yeah.
and it was fuck it made you kind of crazy, or
Yeah, a little
maybe it
nuts.
was, but yeah, it was so cool. I was like, "Do you have more of these?" You're like, "I do."
Yeah, I brought a stash back, and their cigarettes were awesome. They don't have
Yeah,
like the carcinogens and shit over here, so they're just different. I mean,
tobacco.
everything
Yeah,
over there was just different, but it was so cool. Yeah, you eat in
that's
some of these
super cool.
alleyways where it's like you're leading down this dark alley, and you're just like, right, I'm gonna get stabbed or whatever, and then there's this pit, with like three chairs around it, and it was one of the best meals I've ever had in my life. It's like insane. I'd
That's
stay in an
so cool.
ancient city when we were there, because the owner of one of the places I was playing at lived there, or he had a home there also, and he had like this compound thing set up, and it was in this little temple in Guiyang, China. And when we should have, I mean, it was gorgeous. And then we go to this temple. It's this ancient city, and you're walking over bridges that are like 2,000 years older than our country. And it's like
Wow.
people just taking shits off the side of them and stuff. It's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
ornate and all this insane architecture and stuff. It was mind blowing, man. The whole damn trip was crazy.
That's so cool, man. I want to go over there. I want to go to China. I really want to go to Japan. I have friends in Japan, and I mean, and I don't know if this is weird or not, but I I do want to see the mountains, I do want to see the ocean, I do want to see the culture, but I really want to go get a really good fucking bowl of ramen.
It's
I,
there. It's
I know.
absolutely there. Yeah.
I mean, because I don't feel like I've ever had ramen. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we live here and we have ramen and we have even specialty stores that make it, but it's not the same.
And it
It's
could
like,
be people from Japan or wherever, and they're
yeah,
coming over here to make it. But even like the water they make it in is still American
correct,
water. And so there's
correct.
still an element that it's not as authentic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the sugar or whatever spices they're putting in is from different places. It's not the same. Like when we go to sushi here, you get wasabi, but it's really just like horseradish with some green shit mixed in it. It's not wasabi.
Yeah.
Wasabi is a root in Japan.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know what the real stuff tastes like, but I know it doesn't probably taste like horseradish.
Right.
um Dude, okay, cool. So we're covering a little bit of music, and on to that effect, you bailed my band out in Fort Worth in 2010 when we were coming through. The promoter didn't promote the show, said they couldn't do it. Old Al Shire called him and said, I don't care, we're playing. We need, because just like, we need the money to get to the next show. We're
Yep.
playing, you signed a contract, we're doing this. Dude was pissed about it, but we came and we played anyway, and we needed an opening act, and you showed up and played to us.
I was grateful. It was so much fun. And y'all
That was
stayed
a
y'all
lot.
stayed at the house. It was badass, man.
Dude, it was super fun, man. Like, oh, I forgot about that. Was that when you were living at
At the old house in Haltom City, yeah.
yeah, man, your grandma was there still.
Was she?
I think so.
She was still alive? Okay.
Well, I mean, I'd stayed there when she was still alive. I don't know if it
Yeah.
was that particular night, but she was always so freaking sweet to me.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
She
Yeah.
was just like
Grandma and I are the black
welcoming too, like, welcome, come into the house. Do you want food? Like, hang out and just like, what's your story? She was so cool.
Yeah, she and I are the black sheeps. The rest of the family thinks we're absolutely crazy. And when she was alive, people really didn't talk to her. I think my mom and her had some tough times, and that's fine.
Okay.
But they just kind of ignored her and thought she was crazy. But I called Gma all the time. When I was up in Fort Worth, living in Houston at the time, I'd go
Yep.
play at that exact place, the Aardvark in Fort Worth,
Yard
and I
bar.
would always go stay with her. I'd call her 3-4 times a week religiously. I mean, and that's what brought me back up to North Texas to tie it back into China. I was booked to go on my second tour of China, which was going to be 2 months this time, and like even bigger and better. And like there was this huge demand that I was about to be the next Hasselhoff over there to Germany. And my grandma called me one afternoon and just said, "Hey, I don't know what's going on. Like I just feel dizzy all the time. I don't think I can do this anymore." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, got it." And I canceled the tour. I threw everything I could in my truck and drove up there and lived with her, man. So that was a tricky time, but Jibo and I were like the outcasts, and so I'm grateful that we had each other, and I'm grateful I was able to be with her, and that she didn't feel alone, in her last days there. So
Yeah. Dude,
yeah,
yeah, that's good. That's great. I
yeah,
remember that room. There's a room up there that I would stay in when I'd come, or on the couch on the floor when she was still alive. Like then you had like painted bamboo on the
yeah. That was after she
stairway.
left.
That was
Yeah,
after,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That was cool, man. That was a
It was
cool
wild.
place.
Hmm.
I haven't been to your new place. I need to come.
You need to come. It's even better. I mean, this is the ranch, dude. We got
I
the
know.
animals, the pond, and all that shit. Yeah,
I know. Yeah. Okay. So and I need to. I just have
yeah.
to get out of my
Take your
shell.
time.
2020 the the pandemic broke my brain, and so I'm having a hard, like, next week I'm going, it's Dawn's birthday next week, and we're going to spotlight karaoke because she wants to do this karaoke thing with her family and friends and everything. And you'd think that that'd be like, man, this is gonna be good, I'm gonna get to see everybody, but I'm like, oh fuck, I gotta go out in public. I don't want to go outside.
Yeah.
Like, and I have to do it for work, and I do it and I make it happen and everything's fine, but for some reason um my brain's a little like, hey, people are fucky. Don't go outside.
Yeah. Or don't be
Something I got to work
negatively
on.
affected by the things outside. I absolutely think you should go outside because vitamin D is incredibly important for you. Grounding is incredibly
I
important.
do
I
that. I do the
feel
grounding. I'm in
do
the
the grounding.
backyard.
All
I
right.
do the grounding. There's a certain place out in the backyard I go and take my shoes off and hang out, and I have to do it. And like the first time I actually did it, I was camping in Fairfield Lake State Park. Took my shoes off because I'd been listening to your show. Listening to, it was a female guest, I forget her name, but she was talking about it, and I was like, okay, I'm trying this. I've heard it before. Let's do it. And I was out there absolutely in a panic, just all wrapped up in my brain, and over nothing, over nothing. Took my shoes off, put my feet in the dirt, and sat there and just lived in the moment and looked at the trees, and everything got crystal clear really fast, like within minutes. Like, I mean, I had to, you struggle. It's like meditation, your mind starts, you're trying to be present, you're trying to be here in the thought, and then your mind starts wandering onto work or on other, and you bring it back, and like, but so it took like a minute or two, but it wasn't like 5 minutes. It was probably like 2 3 minutes, and all of a sudden I was like, I saw an owl off in the distance on the tree, and a squirrel over here, and I was just paying attention to this, and I was just in it, and I just started feeling better. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, this works. I don't know why it's working, but it's working. Like, I'm going to do this again. And then
It's
I've
so
been doing
funny.
it ever since.
It's wonderful, and it's so funny that you mentioned meditation because I'm garbage at meditation. Like
Sure.
sitting there and focus and the traditional om and shit that doesn't
Right.
work for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
It just
Right.
doesn't. I'm very aware of the concepts. It's not for me. So I'm a big proponent of the walking meditations. And I like, and so I've combined like three different things actually. So one of my meditations is to mow. And so I call it meditation. And I just put headphones
Okay.
in. I've got either frequency music or just something like a podcast or something, and then I'll mow.
Yeah.
Now it takes about, I'm out there for about 3 hours mowing,
Sure.
just mowing. And it's, I got the zero turn, so it's
Yeah.
Cadillac. So you're just chilling. I've got, no shirt, no shoes, barely shorts on, and just fucking mowing, dude. And so that is a very zen thing for me because I
Cool.
get my mind off of everything and just mow. Now, also, though, because I know that walking meditations work great for me, I mowed myself while meditating and mowing my meditation. I mowed like a labyrinth back here, and because we have 2 acres around the house, we have 10 acres
Okay.
for the animals out in the field, like the donkeys and
Yeah.
goats and shit. But out here, there's just 2 acre, and then we have like a pecan orchard back there or whatever. But there's this huge area of just grass, and so I mowed the thing instead of mowing it flush like a field like I used to. I now mow my perimeter. They call it a fire lane, but I just mow the perimeter, a good wide one. And then I went in and mowed like a damn labyrinth. Like you snake all
Nice.
around, you sweep. I'll see if I can get a drone shot of it for you. And then I'll go barefoot, ground and do walking meditation in the labyrinth that I mowed. And so
That's
it takes you
awesome.
about a good 45 minutes to get all the way through it. And
Wow.
so yeah, it's awesome. So you just go back there. It's my second one. Last year I made a different I guess, design. And this year I wanted to do a new one. And so we did a new one this year and it's amazing. So anyway, that combines the two things, right? Grounding and, this nice little stroll and then being out in nature. So I have basically like a place where it's like, okay, once you enter, it's usually about 45 minutes unless you're sprinting it. and
Right.
a round trip. And so you're going to be there for that time. And so you get grounding in, you get a good like mindfulness practice in to where, yeah, you just, monitor your thoughts.
The
And
I
it's been
think
awesome.
that's fantastic, dude. King's X Doug from King's X, there's a song, I don't even know what the song is, but he says, I take the longest walks, they always do me good.
Yeah.
And it's in the song. I think it's I pretend, blah blah blah. Anyway, who cares? But the point of it is, when I first met him, that's all he ever did. He'd go take a walk. He'd put headphones in, take a joint, go for a walk. And he still does that to this day. He's 72. He looks like he's 20, whatever, like there is a thing to this meditation deal, whether it's sitting down and doing the om, or listening to music, or fucking just jamming in your car and driving, or motation.
Yeah.
Like
Meditation. Yeah.
that's
I just
fantastic.
motivation. Yeah.
I love it. I used to mow my parents' property all the time. It took like 3 hours too. It was a long time. A lot of trees you got to go around. But so speaking of the design of your labyrinth, like that's another thing. You're an artist. Where you do crazy things. Is that the guitar where you did all the wood burning on it?
Yeah. Hang on.
Go get it. You all got to see this. Yeah. So look at that stuff. Like it's fantastic. So you did all of this. I remember.
Yeah, I
when
carved it with a screwdriver. Yeah.
Oh, that's a screwdriver?
Yeah, one of these little Phillips head screwdrivers that you use to
Wow.
like fix your glasses and stuff like that.
Yep.
And so I actually started, and this was actually because of a breakup. So I actually
Yeah.
cut this. I want to say it's this right here, this
Okay.
longer thing. I actually just grabbed a screwdriver one day because I was upset, and you know who I broke up with, by the way,
Yep,
which is
I do.
interesting. Anyway, so it was over a really challenging breakup for me. And I was at the point where I didn't, have control of my emotions or anything like that. And so I just grabbed the screwdriver because it was there because I had eyeglasses and I was fixing them because one of the tiny little screws fell out. And you get just like this kit for like $3 at, I don't know, CVS or something. It comes with a bunch of them. So I was like, fuck, just hurting hard and like writing all these sad songs and shit. So I just picked this damn thing up and just went, across the guitar. And then I was like, fuck.
Yep.
I didn't mean to do that. It was like this
Yeah.
outburst. And so what I did was I turned it into this. And the whole reason,
awesome.
it's not like I sat down and was like, oh, I'm going to carve this cool ornate thing. It was like, no, I did a temper tantrum on this scratch right here and then turned it into this thing here. And so this is how it came out. And this is just from playing, where your fingers sit. Anyway, yeah. And it's got a big old crack in it now from me using it like a drum while I play. You know what I mean? So,
oh, yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, that was my favorite. That was some of my favorite stuff when you figured out how to do that. Because there's only a couple when you were starting to do that, there's only like one or two people that I was aware of anyway that were using it as a drum and playing it in that cool style. And I was like, holy flying fuck. All the tapping stuff. And then, yeah, that was super cool. I learned, I tried to force, dude. Okay, guys. So like Brandon probably doesn't know this, and this is not a boost to your ego, but like it might be. But like when I would be watching this dude play and I would go home and it made me practice harder. I was like, okay, nope, I'm not doing this right. I got to figure this out. And I'd sit there and I'd think, I'd be like, all right, what did Brandon do at Mr. Coffee last night? Or whatever the fuck that place was called.
Open mic, something. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, so okay, I'm gonna do that. And I'd sit there and fuck with it for hours. It'd be like, fuck, I can't figure it out. And I'd come pick your brain that night because I'd bring 30 stones over, 30 Keystone lights with old Salvador Castro. We'd show up and fucking pick each other's brains about music, and it was so much fun. What a good time. Lots of good memories with you, my friend.
A lot, dude. And we keep making more, which is amazing. Like I love this. Like I said on our episode together, you're the person I've known the longest besides my family. You know what I mean? So it's really, really interesting. And I actually talk to you more than my family. So that's wonderful.
I think I talk to you more than my family too, which is
weird, right?
Weird. I talk to my family. My whole family has COVID right now. My mother, my dad, and my brother. They all still live in the same house, and they've all got it. And it's nothing. They're fine. They got a head cold or whatever. But they're in their 70s. My parents, and I don't know. It's a little sketchy. Sketchy. I don't know. I don't know about this whole COVID thing, man. All I know is that when it happened in 2020, and I got really, really, really sick before they had tests. And who knows what it was, but I never got a fever. I just couldn't breathe for like 6 days. It could have been a chest infection or whatever, but either way, I know when that shit showed up, they fucking brain fucked me from watching the news. I mean, like, fucked me.
Yeah.
Like, walking around in circles, watching the news, watching Dr. Burke and fucking Fauci and Hail Fauci. Like, don't do the Nazi symbol, right? That's not Nazis. Maybe it is.
Yeah.
It's Fauci. But like that whole thing wasn't. I don't know. Maybe nobody knew what to do. The CDC, who was built to handle these things, didn't know what the fuck to do. So like, is this how this is going to be? Is this mind control? Is this like was this experiment with, hey, we have a really infectious disease that's or virus that's spreading. Everyone's probably going to get it. Let's use this. Or was it planned? Did they release it and they're like on purpose? Like, okay, release the virus. I mean, what
So are you asking what I think about it?
I'm asking what you think about it.
What I think about it is it was a virus of the mind. It was a virus of fear. And that's what they successfully perpetrated. I don't think coronavirus is a thing. I think that there are several different types of coronaviruses. And even Kelly Morris, the guy that invented the PCR test, will tell you it was never designed to diagnose any current infectious disease, because you can spin it at any rate. So you get any conclusion that you want. And what they were doing is doubling the rate of cycles that were recommended, by the way. And so they doubled the recommended cycles. And so what that shows you, the PCR test will detect, and this is why Carrie Mullis said it should not be used to determine this, is because you can detect anybody who's ever had a cold ever. It'll show up as a positive. Wow. It's not a current positive. It just says, you know what? Yep, you did have it at one time in your life.
Interesting.
So I think since you asked, this is my answer. I think it was a fear of the mind kind of a thing, and I don't think the coronavirus is real at all. Well, it worked for some folks, yeah, and it worked on a big level. Well, but what happened after that? What happened whenever you started looking at it, and you even yourself called it a pandemic? So what made the leap from, oh shit, I'm gonna die from this and all that stuff, to it was probably perpetrated, or at least to the point to where you could downgrade your fear about it? What was that transition like?
It was actually really, it took a little while because I was surrounding myself with people. I would go to work wearing a mask at first, right? And like, because I was scared, and I was like, okay, well, I'm wearing a fucking mask, and no one at work was wearing a mask. They're like, dude, you're weird. I was like, hey, I like it anyway. You're like, I get to hide. It made me happy. I got to hide in this thing, and so I'm wearing the mask, and then I don't know. I think like I started realizing that people that were wearing the masks were getting sick anyway, or sick anyway, or they're getting the coronavirus anyway. I was like, okay, well, this doesn't fucking work. And so I'd stopped wearing a mask, and that was pretty early on. And then, I don't know. I just like one day I think between late 2020 and mid 2021, something, I was like, I was riding in a car with two guys. They both had it or whatever, and they both had horrible fevers, sick as shit. They both had the vaccines, and were totally fully vaxxed, boosters, everything. And they got sick as fuck. And I was in the truck with them. It was a tiny, like, it wasn't an S10, it was like a Ranger or something. I'm sitting in the back, small truck. And I rode around with them that entire week. I never got sick. Nothing ever happened. And I was sitting there thinking, okay, well, then that's fucky. If they got the vaccines and they're getting sick, didn't the president just tell us that if you get the vaccine, you're not going to get sick?
He guaranteed it. Yeah.
And
then
like,
he got it, allegedly,
and then he
again,
got it.
after being double boosted, double vaxxed, all that shit.
Yeah. So that's what the information I just started going, yeah, none of this is real. None of this makes sense anyway.
That's the one.
So
there it is. That's it right there. And so it's the none of this makes sense. And when it stops making sense is when you stop being susceptible to catching the disease, right? So really, again, in my mind, this isn't a disease like in the traditional sense. And even my understanding of the traditional senses of viruses changed quite a bit. When you were hearing people talk now about terrain versus germ theory, like that's very interesting to me. Because I find that, I mean, I guess humble brag here. I was an essential worker, so I was out in the shit. I was stocking grocery stores. I was doing all sorts of shit.
Right.
Never wore a mask, hated it when I was forced to by my employer, which
Right.
was the only time I did. And it was always quick off. I even bought one of those ones that was mesh. It's a
Yeah.
paintball mask,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the back to what you said about not making sense, it didn't make sense to me that you could just wear whatever the fuck you want. All they wanted was you to put something on your face. And so
Right.
this is my first clue that it's not medical. Got it. Okay, cool. Because then you'd have all those videos of those people putting cloth masks or, their
Yeah.
Superman mask and all that shit on, and then blowing steam through it or getting a vape and blowing vape through it, even N95s, and they're blowing vape through it and shit. And
Yep.
it's like, so how is this protecting? And then they would put like 5 of them on and still blow vapes and shit.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
It's a the fucking virus is smaller than the vapor you're blowing through. So of course it's getting out. You're not doing anything.
the equivalent of a virus, and this is also where a lot of people don't know the difference between a bacteria and virus. And so there'd be like these people at these stores or whatever, and so back to that, worked the entire time, never got a test ever, never felt sick ever. It just didn't get to me here, meaning that it didn't get to me here. And so I
Oh,
just, and there are tons of things that we definitely should talk about how we felt that it stopped making sense. And mine was very early on. Mine was, I got about 3 days into the thing and was like, oh, this is all bullshit. Got it. And I
oh
was
wow.
fine after that. Yeah. And really, though, one of the big turning points on that was not only the mask and you can wear anything you want. The news was never telling you, because what do they always say? Oh, it's about your health. It's about your health. It's about your
Yeah.
this, and now we're gonna send you to 5 McDonald's commercials. You know what I mean?
What?
So
Yeah, dude. There's a movie where like I don't know what the movie was, but there's a thing where the this person was telling a girl, if somebody comes up to you and says, "Come with me, it's for your safety," that means they're going to kill you
yeah,
or whatever. Like
yeah.
this is for, and it's like this is what happened.
This is the thing. And the other thing is no one on the news was talking about if it is for your health. There were no doctors sitting there, not many, not the ones that got news time, that were
Right.
telling you actually vitamin D, a lot of our society is very deficient in. Also, you should probably put down the fast food, because your health is really dependent on how much water you drink, your
Yeah.
disposition, all that stuff, which again leads more to terrain theory. So terrain just means that you have something going on in you, and you can't be interfered with that from anything coming outside. Now, this is how I personally kind of navigate my life anyway. People's things and attitudes and opinions and whatever don't affect my disposition. They just don't. And so if you're able to have that kind of constitution, then of course you would have a constitution barrier around being sick, being around sick people and not getting actually sick. You have to
Right.
subscribe to the idea for it to affect you. One of the other things on this was, I mean, not only they just real quick, the governors that would came out, and this was the either 3 days later or whatever. This was my big clue. All the governors started coming out from all these major cities and saying, "Oh, we have 33 reported cases," and then over here in New York, 33 reported cases, and then over here in California, 33 reported cases. So it's like whenever they got up on stage, and somebody actually put these together, and there's a whole montage of whenever governors first reported any hospitalizations due to this new coronavirus or this narrative, whatever it is, every single one, it was 33 cases. Now, in my
Interesting.
mind, this throws a big red flag because 33 is, of course, Masonic. And so, in my mind, this was them telling the world, all these respective governors, that, yep, we're playing the ball. Yep, it's go time. Yep, we're playing the game. It's now time. Because they kept
Wow.
signaling to their cohorts that, yes, roll this out, enact your plan, because 33 confirmed cases. So, whenever they sit there and do that, number one, the odds of that, right?
Right.
Ridiculous. If you have it twice, that's ridiculous. And if you have it in a city, population as New York, and then you also had it in fucking Jackson, Mississippi, 33 cases, 33 cases, really? I mean, they're exactly the same, even with these disparate population levels. So anyway, that was my first clue. And I know this is going to be very controversial. I know people have lost family members to what
I
doctors
did.
told them was coronavirus, right?
Yeah. My grandma lived to 99. So here, this was another one of the things that turned things into something weird. Grandma lived in a nursing home. She um 99 years old, had congestive heart failure, all the stuff that you get when you live to be 99.
Fucking
And
99, yeah.
yeah,
And
like
eat our
90,
food and breathe our air and drink our water. Yeah,
dude,
all of
99 is max level in Diablo 2, just saying.
that.
But
Yeah.
so she made it to 99, left the window open because she would sleep with the window open sometimes, and a cold front came through. Well, what happens when you're older? You leave the freaking window open and the temperature drops to fucking nothing, 20 degrees overnight. You get sick.
Yeah.
And so she got sick. She goes to the hospital. And then all of a sudden she has coronavirus, but she's in a nursing home that was like trading out nurses every few weeks. Like the nurses came in and lived there or whatever, or something like that. They were, quarantined. They didn't see any, and she only ever saw a nurse and the everything, whatever. So she got fucking pneumonia or something. And then they were like, coronavirus. And I was like, wow, everything, because people were dying on motorcycle accidents. And they're like, yeah,
Perfect example.
coronavirus.
Perfect
And I was
example.
like, oh, and then it happened to us, like, or at least it felt that way. And I was like, something is fucky.
It's fuckery. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they're all incentivized by monetary gains to actually misreport. And there were family
Yeah.
members that called and said, take that off of the death record. He died in a plane crash and you wrote coronavirus. So your hospital would get 60 grand. And they were like, no, we're not, that's what he died of. It's not the sudden impact from the plane crash. It was because he had corona. Right. And
Yeah.
so it's, again, fuckery. And so this is where like the idea started to separate for me. And I started to watch the whole world, this 80% herd, just kind of march to that, Pied Piper's fiddle there. And I was just like, okay, got it. This is where we are. Now, the good news is that, and I mean, I'm a boundless optimist anyway, is that when you step out a level, I view things from multiple perceptions. And that's what we talk about a lot on the show. I've ran you down those rabbit holes, but
Absolutely.
when you step out of that and you kind of look at it, then you're like, oh, okay, this is all for our own good. Because how I look at it now is that lockdown time period, it forced a lot of people to really take good hard looks at themselves and to really sit there and say, are my belief systems the way I really believed? Am I really that dependent on alcohol that I can't just stop drinking? Am I wanting to just continue to make these decisions that keep my life where it is? Or is now maybe an opportunity for me to take a little bit of self-reflection, and what we call it, in a lot of the circles, some of the speak is shadow work. And so whenever you really go down to those parts that you normally suppress with all the things that society tells you should be using to suppress those, again, alcohol, narcotics, anything like that. And I have no problem with any of it. Like I stopped drinking mid 2020, but that was for my own thing. And I've no desire whatsoever, no desire. But
That's
then
great.
thank you. And then you have all these people though that really went inside themselves. And so this is also where you're seeing a lot more people right now talking about the chakras and meditation and crystals and aliens. And
Right.
they're not, tuned into the narrative as much. Now you still have that sect of the population that is going to absolutely follow that because that's their role. Their role in our great understanding, or the dichotomy of this place, however you want to put it, that's their job, is to go, I'm going to be this. And then you look at it through your eyes and you either align with that or you don't. And these are what we call choice points. And so there was a huge choice points that happened in 2020 that it said, okay, well, here's some information you're being presented with. You can't be the same afterwards. So which path would you like to take? It's the red pill, blue pill moment.
It's
For sure.
what were those books that we read when we were a kid? The choose your own
Choose
adventure.
your own adventure. Yeah. I think that's what life is anyway, but absolutely it's a choose your own adventure, because then it was like, okay, do you want to, wear the mask and have the vax and do all these things and then be scared of everyone and then say, well, and then not even look at it as maybe, this whole system in place here is detaching me from others and isolating me, when really we should be coming together more than ever. And what it did, unfortunately, for a lot of folks was it made them fear their other man, because what the narrative was, oh, you can give it to grandma and you can kill her. And it's like, well, I don't want to kill my grandma. Nobody does.
Yeah,
And
I
so they bought
100%
it.
had Thanksgiving outside on my mom and dad. I don't know if it was that. I don't know if we missed the first one or what, but my mom was like against the whole thing. She's like, this is like, we're having Thanksgiving, but the whole family was like, I don't know. And so I went to my mom and dad's house, me and Dawn, but we did it outside. And I think it's even on YouTube. Like I videotaped it. Like we had outside Thanksgiving because we were like legitimately terrified.
Yeah. A lot of people were, man. And again, this was designed and executed perfectly. I think it worked perfectly, because it either scared the shit out of you, which it should have done, or it scared the shit out of you and woke you up. One of the two. And so
it did a little bit of both for me.
And that's why I asked what your interaction was between when you thought it was real to when you kind of said, I don't really take this as seriously. And think of the person you are now because of having gone through that experience.
Sure.
Totally different. Like there's just been just leaps and gangs of people who are just totally on new paths in life. People I talk to all the time on the show that I've gotten to bring on, people that have written just fucking incredible books like this, Mark Ollie.
Yeah, we're
And
gonna
he
hang out
was
with him on your show.
absolutely we are. And then same thing with Ryan Musgrave Evans. He's incredible. These two books wouldn't have come about without
Nice.
the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I talked to these guys and they're like, I've had this idea for a book for a long time. And then, when the shutdown happened, I finally wrote it. And now they're like touring around with their book. Now they're like best-selling authors. Now they're doing this stuff where before they would have just worked their job, watched the Real Housewives of whatever, drank their six-pack, and then just kept it going. But now what they've done is they've been presented with, again, this choice points. It's an opportunity. And I think a lot of people, thank God, most of us, I'd say anyone outside of the 80% herd, you've got a certain amount of fear because that's based in your ego. Like you need that. Like I think the human beings are born with two fears innately, and that's the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling, like heights or whatever. And so those two things, everything else is learned. Anything else you're scared of, spiders, any of that shit, you learn that shit.
Right.
So it's other than that, outside of racism included, by the way. So anything like bigotry, racism, homophobia, anything like that, you learn outside of those two fears that you're originally born with. So fear, or at least the awareness that you'd rather survive, is very necessary for this experience. And so that's wrapped up into our ego, right?
Yeah.
And so the ego is very necessary. And all these people who are like, oh, kill your ego, do not do that. Do not do that. You still need that. But what you want to do is integrate the darker, the scarier parts of yourself, right? So that's a whole shadow work thing. But when you really look back at it like that, you're just like, okay, well, if my perception then is really what determines how I get through this, that's when you gain a lot of confidence in trusting your intuition and going with your perception. And again, a lot of these dudes that did these books, like they'll never go back. This was, again, choice points for all of us, but it's made this some of the most incredible connections. Some of the most amazing people are coming out and doing things, starting their own shows, doing all sorts of cool shit. And it's because of this wonderful shit show that happened about 2 years ago.
Yeah, dude, I love your perspective on this. I love where you I love this. Makes me so happy. This is why I like talking to you all the time. Because you're, like you said, the eternal optimist, and I'm the pessimist version. I'm trying.
Which is
I'm
still
trying.
very necessary. It's a necessary part of this. I get it.
Trying to flip it. It's just, my mom bought me a T-shirt back in 1992, and it had like lightning, a dude getting struck by lightning, and then it had the definition of pessimism underneath it, and I thought it was fucking hilarious. And I mean, I don't really think I'm a pessimist, but I mean, I think I am to an extent at sometimes. I definitely want to see the brighter side of things, but that shit being said, I was going to circle back to music, and I forgot what I was going to say because I started talking about pessimism. So I guess it doesn't matter. Pandemic, music, that's it.
Pan flutes.
Got it.
Oh,
okay. What pan flute? No, I wanted to talk about like it shut down the music industry. It shut it down. It sent people into their homes, which was cool because we got some really cool albums that came out of it that are just now starting to come out. But a lot of my friends' bands, and like from small to big, like they lost their ass because they lived off of touring. You don't make money on selling music anymore, and you haven't since Napster. So, I mean, you can, if you sell billions and billions of albums, then you get like $3,000.
You get enough to cover your graphics for it. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And so I was like, I was really concerned that whole time. I was like, we're never going to go to concerts again. It's never, like, at this one point, me and Al Shire were talking like, that's it. We're never going out. We'll never be able to be in crowds again. This is going to fundamentally shape our world for the rest of our lives. And it did and is, but not the way that we were terrified of in the beginning. Now festivals are going on. Everyone's rocking. No one's having a hard time. It's getting back to normal. Finally everyone's not like, well, you can't come to a show unless you've been vaccinated. Remember that? Like when the show started
Rage
coming.
The Machine. Yeah. Hilarious.
Yeah. If you're not vaccinated, you can't
half of the machine is what they are.
Dude. And that's the shitty thing about them. Because I remember listening to them in like 1994. I think they're on the Crow soundtrack, talking about conquistadors and all kinds of shit, and just being very political and just raging against the machine. And then I'm like, they got old.
Oh,
and
you are the machine.
They have become it. or got, I don't know what happened to him, but like, and I'm sorry, I love those guys and met a couple of them before, and they're super nice and super awesome. But like, whatever it is, and I'm not against you, don't hate me, but like, something changed where they're not the same.
Yeah,
It's
I'm not against them. I'm extremely disappointed. Yeah.
yeah,
And probably am not, it takes like the reason you love them in the first place and just goes, oh, and it just like shits all over it. They're
uh,
the,
I'm not listening to them anymore. I mean, I
yeah.
listen to the old classics because
Yeah, there's an energy there.
nostalgia.
There's still an
Yeah,
angst. Yeah, yeah, I get it. I completely get it. And it does feel interesting what you said about the music industry as well, because a lot of this happened with a lot of industries, namely Hollywood, which was wonderful. This is like
yeah,
the time when all of them shut up and then they were sitting there singing on their cameras and stuff to
yep,
an audience, just trying to get that loosh out of us, just like, please pay attention to me. I'm still valid, and you're fucking not.
yeah.
And
And that's
so
when they went on, what's that thing called? Where you pay money and that they'll be like, hey, I
Cameo.
cameo. Yeah, because I got somebody to do it for Dawn, Felicia Day. She was awesome. But yeah,
Yeah.
but every single actor went on cameo for that year or whatever because they needed some fucking money and
They needed
attention.
attention. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's exactly right. And so they still needed to feel valuable. And if you weren't, if they couldn't fake you out by being an actor and say, "Oh, I'm valuable because of this," and there's great, artistic movies that are made and great, wonderful. I'm a big fan of movies, all that stuff, big fan of music, all that. But really, then it stripped it down to the authenticity of the individual. And so this
yeah,
is what we really saw, I think, is that all of the people that we thought were so fucking cool and so, oh my God, iconic, a lot of them you just look at and you're just like, oh, and you just kind of zip by them in understanding. You're just like, oh, well, I used to like you. It's
yep,
kind of like what I remember in, have you ever seen that movie? Oh, fuck. It's with Kevin Costner. He's like a mailman.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm
And
talking
it
about?
back in the 1893 or whatever, back in the
I think it's
day.
set in the future. It's set after, it's like a post-apocalyptic movie. Anyway,
Okay,
there's
is
a
it
movie,
post-apocalyptic?
yes,
It's called
because
like The Postman or something. I
The
thought it was
Postman.
from.
So the idea is that they need to then go back, right, to when postmen were running mail because that was their only means of communication because of an EMP or like the world ended or something like that. Well, the reason I bring it up is because Tom Petty's in that as Tom Petty. And Tom
Oh,
Petty is standing there and Kevin Costner walks by him and he goes, "You're famous." And Tom just goes, "I used to be." And then just like kept walking. So it was just like
I gotta
this. It was
watch
like
that
this.
again.
You meet him and it was like this now on a global scale. It's like, shit, I used to look up to you. And now like
Yeah,
these people that you used to really take a lot of inspiration from and look up to, where society and everybody kind of put them here and you're here. Well, now it's like not only are you looking them in the eye and saying, "I used to know you. You used to be famous." Or then they say, "Yes, I
yeah,
used to be." But then you pass them because Kevin Costner is the fucking hero in that scene.
right.
It's not the famous person, Tom Petty, that we all know and love. It's Kevin Costner because he's now the one in post apocalyptic world that's doing the real shit. This is how I kind of feel about folks like you and I, the ones out here actually doing this and really asking the right questions. We are now the new people who folks are looking up to. I'm seeing this like at a crazy rate. It's been mind boggling. It's not, and people aren't sitting there listening to Kanye West anymore. And
Right.
people are calling bullshit on Tom DeLonge and his whole thing with the UFOs and stuff. I think it's just a very interesting thing that fake authenticity that everyone valued, they're seeing it for what it is. And this is what the veil lifting is all about. This is what, and you don't even have to go crazy woo woo with this. This is just more of a psychological thing. And
Yeah.
even when you look at things like the vax or like let's say COVID in general, it was in my mind, and I completely represent myself on this. So if anybody has an issue, please just write me. I mean, it's no big deal. But it really in my mind was this like placebo effect on everyone. It was just, okay, well, how can we scare the shit out of these people? I got it. We're going to say that there's this invisible boogeyman running around and anyone can get it and you won't even know you got it. But then 2 weeks later, your grandma will die. And it's like the perfect thing. You got to wear a mask.
Yeah.
And in
Wow.
ancient times, they made people wear masks for subordinates. Like that showed that there's a whole psychological element just to wearing a mask. It takes your
Huh.
identity away. It makes you more subservient. It makes you more
Yeah.
obedient.
BDSM.
All of these things. There you go.
I
Thank you.
mean,
And so when you have everyone running around and doing this, and especially like authority figures, well, they're just going to mimic this in the herd. But then people like me and well, it's, or maybe even have an inkling, well, it's bullshit. Like, why are they doing this? Like, what is this for? And really, it's just like in school. If you acted up, it's not because you were stupid. Like T. Snyder said on my show, it's not because you're stupid. It's because you don't comply. Like, that's the biggest
yeah.
thing is compliance. It had nothing to do with anyone's safety in my mind. It was just a huge ritual, and if you want to say satanic, Masonic, whatever, then it was that, and it was pretty damn successful as far as rituals go.
Oh,
That was a pretty good one.
Well, look at like, okay, so the world as a whole, not just America. Well, right before this thing showed up, people were protesting everywhere
Yeah.
for everything. And I mean, they still tried to after this thing came out, but then they were able to use military force to force people into their houses, policemen ripping people out of other houses because they're not allowed to hang out, like what happened in Canada, where they're like, you're not allowed to hang out with your family. Pull,
Australia.
yeah, in Australia and Austria and everywhere. But like the whole world was upset about things, whether it's here in America where we felt like racial stuff wasn't right, or like the BLM thing showed up, which is, I mean, we could get into the Bureau of Land Management stuff,
Yeah,
but
that's
that's
a
a
fun one.
different. But we'll go to we'll anyway. But like that whole thing showed up, and it was like someone was like, "We gotta fucking shut this shit down," you know, and it happened.
Yep.
And
And that was our collective choice point. Because I know a lot of people said, "Oh, I can't wait for things to return to normal." And I'm like, well, but the normal was this like ridiculous inflation rate with a bunch of pedophiles running everything that were doing really fucked up shit, human trafficking children all over the place, and just destroying everyone psychologically. That's what you want to go back to? It's like, or maybe is this an opportunity for us to create a new world the way that we see? And this whole like Klaus Anal Schwab and the World Economic Forum and shit. That's not bond. That's not what's going to happen. I believe this is an option. It's a choice for you. Just like with all of this. I told my mom this actually when all this shit started. And I was well into the like fuck all this. It was about a month or two into this whole narrative in 2020. And my mom was just freaking out. And I was like, Mom, take your mask off. I was like, this is a ritual. This is to see how far they can push this and how much they can take away from us. I said, we have an opportunity now just to say no. And your sign of compliance is wearing that goddamn mask. If you look at the 6 feet apart thing, it's 666. It's a good ritual.
yeah,
And the mask, again, back to ancient was in ancient Aramaic or something where they had this whole tradition. That's why they like instituted masks to make people feel like shit and to make the powerful higher. So if you weren't wearing a
yeah,
mask, like it has a psychological effect on you. So they kind of,
absolutely,
and that's how these lizard turds work. They just pull. It's a template, so they just pull shit out of their hat, and it's all been done before. And so I told my mom, take off the mask because that's it. All it'll take is that's us standing up and the chessboard falling over. Take off your mask. And I said, if we lose the mask stronghold, they will get to mandatory or to a strong push on vaccines. And she was, no, that'll never happen, never happen. And bam, here we go. And then the vaccines and stuff like that. So again, I take no pleasure in saying like, oh, I was right and you're wrong, because that's not what this is about.
sure,
Again, this I believe is a very personal thing, and I cannot tell anyone how to live their lives, nor would I want to. That's a lot
right,
of responsibility, and I just don't have time. Fuck
right,
that. You guys make your own damn decisions. But what I can say is from my perspective, and again, because we're talking about it here, it seemed like a big ritual. It was a huge ritual and a psychological operation, a psyop,
hundred
that was
percent,
pretty damn successful. But what I like about it is from the other side. Again, because I look at this in multiple ways. And so on a deep level, like if you zoom way out, maybe this whole thing is just a theater and maybe you're the actors in all of it. And so what's interesting is like even in Westworld, right? You get to choose if you wear a black hat or a white hat. There are people who facilitate an experience. So perhaps what we're
yeah,
all experiencing is this grand experience that's being facilitated by a matrix or a reality or a school or however you want to put it. But if you look at it like this, then all of the shitty things here are absolutely awesome and necessary. Like you need them. You need
right,
this in a dualistic state because we've got these extremes. And so your job is discernment here, again, in my mind. And so if you're like, oh, I don't want to do that, and the lizard turd option doesn't sound good, well, there's a middle point, and you have the palette in between to create that with. That's
yeah,
what I think we're really here to do. And so if you don't get wrapped up in all the shit going on out there, I've got that saying, tend the garden that you've got, which is just what can you do? Is you worrying about what's going on in Ukraine, whether it's real or not, or feeling bad for this or feeling great about that?
oh
Like, is
man,
that helping you and your wife and your kids and your home and your
right,
animals? Like you've still got that garage. Go clean out your garage. That's a way better use of time than you obsessing over anything you fucking see on the news at all. And
you're
the
right,
simple reason is because it affects the immediate environment around you. And that's honestly what I think that's what you have control over. That's your garden. So go tend
yeah,
it, right? What's the Joe Dirt
love
thing?
it.
Last a garden, dig it. But
Lots of
that's what it
garden,
is.
dig
And
it.
so if
Do you ever
they're
see
able to
Joe Dirt too?
I
It's a
did
thing.
not. No, I
Oh,
know, but the sequels have bombed like
don't.
crazy.
Yeah. Don't watch
See,
it.
and I've had so many people tell me that, and
I
every
mean,
time I
I
tell
liked
someone I
it. It was
haven't.
like it felt nostalgic, kind of like I was like, oh my god, I didn't even know they made this. And I watched it,
Yeah.
and Brandy shows up, and you're like, oh my god, this is really cool. But you're like, I don't, I don't smoke weed anymore. Maybe if I smoked a joint, this would be funny. Like,
I don't
like it's
think
one of
so.
those.
Even a lot of the stoner movies are lost on me. Like I don't know if stoner are funny, even though I smoke. I don't know. It's just weird. Like I
Well,
haven't
maybe we're
found it
just in
funny
a
since I
different.
was in my early 20s.
Maybe that's just because of the age. Maybe we've just
It's just
reached.
not for me.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
just not into it anymore. Like Clerks 3, I think is about to come out, and I'm hopeful. I love Kevin Smith, so hopefully it's amazing. Like I love the Jay and
And I
Silent
used
Bob
to.
theme.
Kevin Smith fell off the goddamn thing with his whole preaching about the narrative and
Yeah,
all of that stuff. It's just
I
like, come
yeah,
on,
and
it's
I
nothing sacred.
literally started choosing to ignore it from a lot of my like depending on how much I love or appreciated the person or actor, actress, whatever famous person. I started choosing to ignore it. I just skip through their shit. Like, all right, let's get on to
Yeah.
your what are you
Didn't
make?
you find that this could have been something really traumatic for any one of us, right? It could have been like,
Right?
shit, well, I had all these people that I really put a lot of faith and high hope in that they would do the right thing, whatever that is, because they've proven to me in the past that they've done that by my standards at the time, right?
Yeah.
And so if you look at it that way, now you're like, there's this concept called open tabs, and I love this. I talked to Dewey Taylor taught me this, and it's about just that go on here, and like an open tab. Number one, like on your computer, right? It's a wonderful metaphor because we can all relate to this in technology. You sit there, and if you've got a bunch of open tabs, your computer runs like shit, like your
Right.
bandwidth is just lower, right?
Yeah.
So what you want to do, or a beneficial exercise that I found that Dewey enlightened me to, was this: going through and closing your open tabs. Now, what he meant by this is just like these mental things that you go in. Now, relating it to what we're talking about,
Uh-oh.
there were
Hang on a second.
a bunch
I don't know if it's my internet or your internet, but it went to shit. Like you're frozen. Totally froze. I don't even know if you can hear me or see me. It might be me. It says I've got great internet. That doesn't mean shit. Yeah. Connection secured. And you're frozen. I'm going to send you a picture of this because you're actually frozen in a really funny position. Let's see, camera. I just got it real quick. There it is. Oh no, you left before I could even take the photo. Damn it, that was so funny.
what
Oh,
happened?
okay. So like you froze. I don't know why, and I was just kept talking, so I don't know how much you heard of it. But I was like, he fucking froze. I don't know what happened. And then, but you froze like this.
I
And I
love
was like, I was just about to
Zoom
take the
freezes.
photo. I was just about to take a photo of it, and you like came back, and I was like, ah, fuck. Yeah, it was perfect. Anyway, so okay, so we'll get rid
I
of
don't know
some of
where I
the.
lost you, but yeah, I didn't keep. But please repeat what you were saying.
I don't even remember what we were talking about,
Okay.
like because I was having such a good time laughing about how we were frozen. You were saying something.
Open tabs. So just
That's
open
it.
tabs.
That's
And
it.
so you get to
Okay.
go through and you get to close shit mentally. And that's all I was saying with this. And especially when you relate it back to people that we used to like love and adore and look up to, like that was an open tab for you. You're like, yes, I respect this person. I need to know what they're saying, or it's important to me what they're saying because they're important to me. Well, now
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, I'm not even looking forward to the new Rage Against the Machine album. I just close that tab. Got it. Rage Against the Machine is over here in my mind now. And what
Yeah.
it really did is it's allowed you to sift through the things that you found important, and really you find that there's a handful of things, and they're much more meaningful to you though. They're like the sweet spots on everything. And so it's just been this really interesting exercise. And just one more thing I want to say about the pandemic, whatever. The placebo effect has been on my mind quite a bit, and why I've come to the conclusion so confidently that this is probably just a narrative and that it's probably just a virus of the mind and all of that, just to see if it can scare you, because everything that they said would happen is what people experienced. Okay. And I know that sounds silly, but there's this concept called predictive programming. And predictive programming basically just entails that if this is a school and if we are the real creators here, then the people running the show or the game or the exercise or whatever you want to call it, they have no true power here. We are the powerful ones, okay? They're the ones that whisper in your ear, and they want you to think or believe or bring out in reality is what is manifested, but not before they whisper it in your ear. So what you do is you just whisper. They stop whispering in your ear. You stop creating the reality that they enjoy, right? And this is where you tend your garden. Okay.
Yeah.
It's very hard to tend your garden, to make love to your beautiful wife when you got Klaus Schwab ringing in your head, right? So like the two just don't kind of go together. And
Right.
so if you look at it this way, there's a wonderful example of the placebo effect. I mean, there's a ton, but one of the best ones that I heard, and this is why I'll relate it to this. All of these people were told, oh, you can kill your grandma. Oh, if you get a mild fever, whatever. Oh, if you can, even though flu numbers were non-existent, flu just stopped. I don't. Nobody,
Yeah.
got a
The
Nobel Peace
doctor,
Prize for
the
eliminating the flu.
doctor in the hospital where my grandma was in said to my dad or my mom, "Yeah, we haven't seen a single case of the flu this year," and started laughing
Yeah, it's
about it.
wild. It's pretty interesting. And no bells went off. None.
Yeah.
This is what's so fascinating to me. It's just like the nobody really. You're just looking around and it's fucking crickets. You're like, okay, well, I
Yeah.
guess I'm just gonna be by myself on this, and I'm totally fine. People, I'll be here whenever you're ready to talk about it, right? So there's this wonderful case of where I want to say it was Russia or something. I'm going to forget the details, but the case is interesting enough to continue. So there was this gentleman that was called out to a train car that was apparently the thermostat was broken on it, and they couldn't determine if it was freezing up or not. And so
Okay.
he shows up in the middle of like a spring over there or something like this. It's like 52 degrees. He shows up to fix this thing. He gets all of his tools out and everything, and then the door locks behind him. Now the guy freaks out because he's in a refrigerated car that number one, he's there to fix. So it's
Right.
not working. Okay. He
Yeah.
got so freaked out that he was locked into this thing that they actually found him the next day dead of hypothermia, even though it was 52 degrees outside.
Whoa.
You can convince yourself of anything. You can die of hypothermia in 52-degree weather. So again,
Yeah. Sure.
whenever or people were like, oh, you can give this to whatever. And the guys in the truck that you're talking about that were vaccinated and all that stuff, of course they got the coronavirus because they subscribed to the idea. I do not subscribe to the idea. Therefore, I was never negatively affected by it health wise at all. Actually, I'm healthier than I've ever been. Feel
Nice.
phenomenal. Quit
Yeah.
drinking in the middle of the motherfucker. Haven't eaten at fast food and I couldn't tell you how long. These are just personal choices, though. This isn't something where
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, everybody got to be, and you're a shithead if you're not a vegan. I'm not a vegan. Nothing like that. It's just about making personal choices for you. And so this idea that somebody else can tell you something, you believe it so much that it will affect your health is woo woo to the narrative. But actually,
Yeah.
the narrative gaslights you all the time. They're using dark arts, they're using astrology, they're doing all of this shit. And then they tell you that it's not real so that you can't back engineer it
Yeah.
from the source, which is them to begin with. So they know us a lot better than we know ourselves. And they do this via our news, our media, our movies, everything. The food that we eat, the water, everything is poison to us. And so whenever they can keep you in that state, you can be convinced of anything, right?
Absolutely.
You stand
100%.
for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
I've been convinced of a lot of crap by it for sure. 100%. Like scary. Like like I said, the freaking pandemic in the beginning was dude, I mean, walking circles around the house, pacing back and forth. Then I became an essential worker myself. I don't know how that worked, but like, so then we had to be at work. I'm like, stay away from me, like it worked. Whatever. I mean, it clearly worked, and it worked on everybody except for like, like you said, there's a couple of people like my mom, you, like after a couple of days, you're like, yeah, this is bullshit. Like that did, but it worked. It worked on me. I think it took me like 8 months or something when family members started dying from it, friends started dying from it. And it's like, hold
Right.
on a second.
And you can
Like,
catch that. It's just like the dude that thought that he froze to death. If people think that they have a coronavirus, that the news scared the shit into them and convincing them that they have, then you can die from those symptoms. Just like the
yeah,
dude in the train car. He died from hypothermia, even though it wasn't even near below freezing. And he
yeah.
froze to death
And you and me
because he
talked
thought he
about
would.
something like this. I don't know if it was just over the phone or what, but this has maybe been some months back, but it was like, yeah, can you start having these thoughts, these negative thoughts or this whatever, and then all of a sudden you have this, like now within a month of figuring this out, now you have cancer, or now you have this.
Think about course correction on a boat. Like if you course correct 1 degree on a boat, over time that boat is off by thousands and thousands of
Yeah,
miles. Think
correct.
of this in every decision you make, because a lot of people in our societies conditioned us to this: live now. Like you only have, and yes, there is a Zen moment of now and
Yes,
being present and all of that. I
correct.
completely get that, but there's kind of like this thing to where like they don't think that they are as powerful as they are. And if someone were to tell you that your thoughts create your reality, how mindful of your thoughts would you be? You'd be pretty damn mindful of it. But if there's, government out here that distracts you from everything and says, no, you're not this powerful, like it's all bullshit. It's all right. I mean, these silly woo, these freaky hippies. But if you were to really, really adopt the concept, then in about a month, you're going to find that you hate your life. And the reason is because you are currently living, every single one of us is living a current manifestation. This is what you wanted. Every single thing around you right now is a choice that you made to be there. Every object in the back room there is something you placed there because you want it to be in your reality. Same with your thoughts, same with your beliefs. And not a lot of people will even take a magnifying to their beliefs because they're like, oh yeah, I just believe that. Oh yeah, the earth is a ball hurling through space. Yeah, the government is awesome and everything is correct that they say. Yeah, there's this horrible war going on in Ukraine. And there's all of these things where it's just a non sequitur. They don't question. All you've got to do is question your reality. That's it. You start with a question, and really good within questioning beliefs you even held is a great way to start that. One of the great examples of this is I went around telling people for fucking years that daddy long legs were the most venomous spider on the world, but they couldn't puncture your skin. Your
I
fangs
remember people saying that. Yeah.
We got it from the movie Arachnophobia. As you know, as wonderful and reliable as a source as that should have been with the great Jeff Daniels, then it just turned out to not be. And so then it, but even that, yeah, Candy, even that, you go back and you evaluate even little things that you just parrot off from people, and you do a little bit of research, and you're just like, holy shit, that's not true. Then the best question to ask yourself is, what else do I believe that's not true? And man, that's the catalyst.
The Arachnophobia, my father took me to see that in 1992 at the movie theater. It was on Mason Road in Katy, Texas. Cinema 8, nice. It was called. And I became arachnophobic because I was in second grade. And the fucking spider underneath the toilet, I still, at nighttime, turn the light on, look underneath that motherfucker for a fucking venomous tarantula that's going to kill me. And like, or like the cereal boxes. It's in there. The cereal box, remember he reaches his hand in the cereal and it's in there. Yeah, so no more cereal. If the cereal ain't in a locked plastic container, I mean, dude, it really fucked me.
It's good for freshness. So actually, they've just allowed you to keep your Cinnamon Toast Crunch, crunchier longer. That's great. Right. I mean, if that came out of it, then again, there's a benefit to all of this stuff.
I love it.
Like, we're out here in the country. We step on the toes of our shoes on the outside of them right before we put our feet actually in. But that's for a different reason altogether. We actually do have fucking black widows that'll hop at our shoes. I've shaken out a couple of scorpions from my shoe.
Yeah.
And so there's, there are real things like that, but to the point of attachment and to the point of attachment or something like duress, where like you allow it to infiltrate your psyche in such a way to where it really takes a bit of joy away from your life, like that's the shit I'm done with. Anything like that, anything that robs me of my confidence or steals my joy, I'm fucking for. That's it. And I couldn't tell you how much more confident and happy I am. Like, go figure. If you eliminate things that make you feel like shit about yourself and that you hate, you actually live a really joyous, confident life. Like, who knew? Yeah,
dude, I love this, and we're gonna do it again, and I'm gonna be on your show soon, and
yeah, we'll do another expansive. We got
Expansive Insider. You guys got to come over to expandingreality.com and check it out. Join the Expansive Insider. That's the correct way to say it, right? And get some extra badass content and all that good stuff. And I'm promoting him when he's on the show with me, so that means it's fucking good. Get over there.
Thank you. I'm truly grateful for all the support, dude. You're incredible. Thank you.
Dude, you're incredible. Thank you for having me do this. Without this, I'd be in a really weird space. Like, I got a little bit of music in me, but it's not like it used to be. But the creative bug is still in there. And this, along with the YouTube channel and some other things I'm doing, yet to be revealed, are just like helping me facilitate this and getting that thing that I've needed to get out, whether anyone's watching or not. Like, I just have to fucking do something. And this is it. And this is like, I've been paying more attention to this than the YouTube channel. So much so that yesterday I released some hot sauce video with this phone, which I'm never ever doing again. I'm never doing it again. You see how grainy that thing was? I was like, why is this so grainy?
It's like, raw. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, he's got the Blair Witch Project going. Yeah.
Yeah. So
The
like,
found footage shit.
oh yeah. So I was like trying to, anyway, point of the matter is I've been enjoying the podcast so much that I've neglected the thing I started doing in the beginning. And you had said something awesome to me that was like, if you don't feel like doing it, don't do it. Do it when you're inspired. Do it when you
Yeah.
have passion. And yesterday I was like, I want to do this,
Right.
and I wanted to, so I did one, and whatever, it's out there, and that's cool. And there's a Cook's Corner coming out pretty soon, and all this other stuff. Like, I don't know, man. I really appreciate everything, your friendship, your guidance, your help, your love, your understanding. You're a fantastic human. Thanks for coming on the show.
Dude, we're back at you, bro. And it's like I always say, we're all just walking each other home here. So if
Yeah.
I can be of service, I'm extremely grateful for that, man. So thank you. And keep moving forward. You're doing wonderful. You're built for this, dude. So you're doing great. And we're all very proud of you, and we're definitely watching. So keep doing it.
Badass, man. Thanks. All right, everyone. This has been the 13 with your host, Ryan 13, and Brandon Thomas from Expanding Reality. All of his links and everything will be down in the description. Please go check him out. It's fucking fantastic over there. And there's a lot to get into. See y'all on the next one.